Okay, so let's dive in. We're looking at this stack of material you've given us, articles, notes, research, all on, well, the really long and fascinating story of artificial intelligence.
Right.
And our job here, digging through your stuff, is basically to pull out the key highlights, yeah? Give
Yeah.
you a shortcut to understanding how AI got to where it is today.
What really jumps out from this material is, this isn't just some Silicon Valley thing from the last few
Yeah,
years.
definitely not.
The roots go way, way back, centuries, actually. Even further if you count, like, ancient myths about artificial life.
Like golems or automatons.
Exactly. And early philosophical ideas, too. People trying to mechanize thought.
Yeah.
Someone like Ramon Lull back in the 13th century trying to build a logical machine.
So that core idea, building intelligence, it's been around forever. Okay, fast forward a bit. Your sources mention things like the word robot popping up in the 1920s.
Yeah, that really brought the idea into popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the big intellectual turning point highlighted in your notes is Alan Turing, 1950.
The Turing test, asking, can machines think?
Precisely. He framed the fundamental question. And then the actual field of AI that's usually pegged to the Dartmouth workshop in 56. That's where the name artificial intelligence actually got coined, according to these papers.
And there was a lot of excitement then. Maybe too much.
Oh, absolutely. Loads of optimism. Frankly, reading through some of this early stuff, a fair bit of overconfidence.
Yeah, I see predictions here about machines basically matching human intelligence in like a decade or two, proving theorems.
Right. They really underestimated how hard the problems were,
Right.
which inevitably led to disappointment.
The AI winters. That term comes up a lot in your material.
Exactly. These were times, late 70s, then again in the late 80s, when the hype bubble burst. Funding vanished. Progress seemed to just, stop.
Because the tech couldn't deliver on those huge promises.
Pretty much. It became unfashionable. A tough lesson, really, about that whole cycle. Huge hype, then reality bites, then you get realistic limitations.
So, looking through your sources, how did things change? What pulled AI out of those winters and into, well, the AI summer we seem to be in now?
Two massive things stand out in the research you've got here. First, just the sheer explosion of data.
Right, the internet age.
Yeah, suddenly there's just tons of raw material for AI to learn from. And second, a huge jump in computing power.
Okay.
Things like GPUs, graphics cards. Initially, they turned out to be perfect for the kind of math AI training needs. Lots of calculations happening at once.
So you've got the fuel data and the engine compute. What about the actual, methods,
I
the
think
algorithm?
that's the third piece.
Hmm.
And your sources point to key breakthroughs there.
Hmm.
Deep learning techniques became practical, not just theoretical.
Okay.
And then architectures like the transformer model in 2017. That was a big one.
Why was the transformer so important? I see it mentioned quite a bit.
Well, it fundamentally changed how machines could process sequences like text. It allowed them to grasp context over much longer passages, which was, a huge limitation before.
Ah, and that directly leads to the large language models, the LLMs everyone's talking about now.
Directly. Models that can write, translate, summarize, even generate code, it all builds on that ability to handle sequence and context.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing multimodal AI too.
Combining text with images, audio, making AI interact more like we do.
Exactly. It's moving fast.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
as your sources also make really clear, the speed brings huge challenges.
Like trust. How do we actually rely on these complex systems?
That's a big one. It's driving research into explainable AI, XAI, trying to peek inside the black box and understand why a model makes a certain decision. It's tough.
And understanding them is one thing, but controlling them, governing them, that's another headache, right? Your notes show different countries are taking different approaches.
Yeah, it's a global puzzle. But the consistent theme across the material is the need for core principles like accountability, transparency, fairness. We need to build those in somehow.
It sounds incredibly complex to navigate.
It absolutely is. Requires a lot of careful thought about the impact of these tools.
Okay, so to recap this journey based on your material, we went from ancient dreams and early, maybe overly ambitious computing ideas.
Through those frustrating AI winters.
Right, then the boom driven by data and powerful hardware.
Plus smarter algorithms like deep learning and transformers.
Leading us to today's incredibly powerful models like LLMs and multimodal systems, but also facing these really urgent questions about trust and governance.
It's definitely a story that's still unfolding, And it's affecting all of us right now.
For sure. Thinking about where this might be going, if AI develops towards some kind of, I don't know, human AI partnership where our intuition works with the algorithms,
Mhm.
it makes you wonder, what human skills become even more vital then? What capabilities do we absolutely need to double down on consciously to make sure we stay the human part of that equation? Something to think about. It isn't just about the AI you might interact with daily, like chatbots or image generators. It's really about the foundational shifts, the ones reshaping, well, everything around us.
That's exactly right. We've got quite a stack here. Articles, research notes, some really diverse perspectives. We're looking at AI's current state, its impact on all of us, and frankly, where this whole transformation might be headed.
Yeah, and our mission today is to try and cut through some of that noise, to pull out the most important nuggets, maybe some surprising facts too, so you can get a clearer handle on what's really happening with AI right now and, looking forward.
And the speed of changes, it's probably the
Yes.
most surprising thing right up front. Just consider this one detail from your sources. The cost of using certain quite powerful AI models, it dropped by over 280-fold
Wow.
in just about 18 months.
280 times cheaper.
Yeah. That kind of deflation makes these incredibly powerful capabilities so much more accessible, so fast.
That really underscores the current state, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Performance leaks are happening constantly, and the gap between the top models seems to be getting narrower. They're just more capable across the board.
Exactly. And alongside that performance, the efficiency gains are just huge. That cost reduction we mentioned, it's fueling this dramatic enterprise adoption.
Mhm.
Your sources show it jumped from about 55% of organizations using AI in 2023
Okay.
to a staggering 78% in 2024. In 1 year.
78%.
Yeah. So companies aren't just like dabbling anymore. They're actively building platforms to integrate AI deep into their operations.
It really feels like this is also speeding up the race towards artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Uh-huh.
AI that could potentially be as smart as humans.
Oh, it absolutely is. And what's fascinating here, looking at the sources, is how quickly those timelines are shrinking. Some expert forecasts now give AGI a 50% chance by 2031.
2031? That's
Yeah.
soon.
It is. Just a few years ago, the median estimate was like 50 years away. So that's a massive shift in expectation.
So what's driving that kind of dramatic acceleration?
Well, it seems to be several factors, all kind of feeding off each other. Massive increases in compute power, for one, the sheer calculation capacity needed for AI training. It's growing over 4 times per year.
4 times every year.
Yeah. Then there are advances in things like reinforcement learning. That's like training AI through trial and error, rewarding it for good behavior. It's teaching models to reason more effectively, sometimes even surpassing human experts on complex tasks.
Mm.
Models can now sort of think longer on problems, trying solutions multiple times. And there's a big push for better AI agents that can perform complex sequences of tasks on their own.
So it's not just bigger models, but smarter, more persistent approaches too. But all that compute, it sounds incredibly energy hungry.
It does raise a really important question about sustainability, absolutely.
Yeah.
Current AI training can be, well, intensely energy consuming. One of your sources noted that training just one older AI model generated as much carbon as 300 round-trip flights between New York and San Francisco.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is, and that pressure is driving research into new areas, like neuromorphic computing, which tries to mimic the brain's efficiency, and even quantum AI, which could potentially cut power use by up to 90%.
Okay, so with all this rapid change, these increasing capabilities, what does it all mean for you listening right now? Let's try to unpack the impact.
Yeah, the impact is really dual-edged. You've got these huge potential benefits, but also some significant challenges. On the benefit side, AI is expected to add something like $13 trillion to the global economy by 2030.
13 trillion.
Yeah, it's accelerating scientific discovery. Imagine an AI co-scientist suggesting new drug candidates. In healthcare, AI can cut cancer treatment planning time by up to 90%. It's transforming manufacturing, finance, even helping optimize sustainability itself.
But there are serious downsides, too, that the sources are pretty clear about.
Absolutely. Job disruption is a major one.
Yeah.
Over 40% of jobs globally could be affected in some way. That means millions might need entirely new careers, particularly impacting lower wage workers.
Mm.
Then you have deep ethical issues. bias baked into the data leading to unfair outcomes, privacy concerns, and this whole black box problem.
Right, where we can't fully understand why an AI made a specific decision.
Exactly, which is worrying.
And the sources also mentioned the misinformation threat, right? Deepfakes enabling fraud, damaging trust.
It's a huge concern.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there are these longer-term risks about, potential loss of human control over systems that are becoming increasingly capable.
That's a heavy picture. So how do we guide this future responsibly? What do the sources suggest?
Well, a key theme is building what's called trustworthy AI right into the design process, right from the start. Governance needs to be adaptive. It has to evolve as fast as the tech itself, maybe using things like regulatory sandboxes to test new approaches. And figuring out clear accountability for AI actions is crucial, perhaps through frameworks like strict liability in some cases.
And what about for individuals? For you listening?
The emphasis seems to be on learning to work with AI. AI will increasingly be like a co-pilot for many people, freeing up time for uniquely human skills: creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
But there's a catch.
There's a caution, yeah. Our goal here, I think, is to really unpack that dual reality of AI right now in 2025.
Dual reality.
Yeah, you've got these incredible opportunities. It offers ways to genuinely empower your life and enhance what you can do.
Okay.
But that's balanced against some very real sort of emerging threats to your well-being, your autonomy.
It really feels like AI is just everywhere now. One source even calls it the ubiquity vulnerability paradox.
That's a good way to put it. Because it is everywhere, and that very pervasiveness introduces new kinds of risks we just didn't face before.
Yeah.
AI isn't just some far-off lab thing anymore. It's baked into tools lots of us use every single day.
Right. Okay, so let's maybe start with the upside. The sources definitely show AI as a kind of super tool.
Oh, absolutely. Think about productivity. It's automating tasks, cognitive tasks even, helping write code, summarize really dense information.
Saves a lot of time, I imagine.
Massively. And in research, education, huge impact. One survey mentioned, what was it, almost 74% using AI.
Wow.
Yeah. And tools like, say, Perplexity. They don't just give answers, they show their work citations. Others summarize whole research papers.
That's pretty powerful. And I saw something about AI co-scientists built on models like Gemini 2.0.
All right, accelerating actual scientific discovery, helping generate hypotheses, experimental plans. It's kind of mind-blowing.
And for more everyday work, marketing, for example.
Oh, yeah. 93% of marketers using it for content generation, 75% saying it just simplifies their daily tasks. That's the efficiency effectiveness multiplier they talk about.
Frees you up for the harder stuff.
Exactly. Higher value work. But it gets personal too, right?
Definitely. Learning, for instance. Teenagers using ChatGPT for schoolwork, apparently usage doubled to 26% last year.
And your well-being. Apps like Ada Health giving symptom checks over 90% accuracy apparently for millions. Virtual doctor visits. 247 mental health support bots.
Like Wobot?
Yeah, Wobot. Or fitness trackers like Whoop Coach, giving real-time, personalized advice.
And creativity. That's maybe the most surprising part for some people.
Totally. Generative AI, DLE, Mid-Journey.
Yeah.
You just describe art and it makes it. Music FX composes audio from prompts.
I saw Genie 2 can generate playable 3D worlds just from text.
Incredible, isn't it? It's like this democratization of expertise suddenly. Sophisticated creative tools are accessible to almost anyone.
Okay, so that's the empowering side. But you mentioned threats. Let's get into the flip side.
Right, because all this pervasive use, it does bring significant risks directly to you.
Like what? I saw mentions of cognitive offloading.
Yeah, that's a big one. The idea is if you rely too much on AI for problem solving, for thinking, well, your own critical thinking skills might start to weaken. It's called the cognitive atrophy loop.
Particularly concerning for younger users, the sources noted.
Definitely. And it can also sort of subtly steer your choices over time. They call it preference crystallization.
Right.
The algorithm nudges you.
And then there's the obvious stuff. Privacy, security.
Huge. Sources pointed to a big jump, like 56.4% in AI-related security incidents just last year. Public trust, way down. Below 50% trust companies to handle their AI data safely.
Plus this shadow AI thing, people using tools at work without official approval.
Yeah, 80% of employees, according to one source. Massive risk for data breaches, model poisoning, lots of technical dangers there.
And the misinformation problem seems absolutely terrifying, deepfakes.
Incredibly realistic ones. And fake content generally. The scary stat was like only 0.1% of people could reliably spot the fakes.
0.1%.
Yeah, even though 60% thought they could. That overconfidence is dangerous. It fuels this trust vulnerability spiral. We're already seeing real-world consequences like that $25 million deepfake fraud case.
Wow. Okay. What about socially? AI companions.
Potential issues there too. Emotional dependency for some,
Huh.
maybe increased social isolation. And these systems can create algorithmic echo chambers.
How so?
Well, they learn what you like and just keep feeding you similar stuff. It can reinforce biases, potentially increase polarization. Sadly, there have even been tragic incidents linked to AI companion interactions.
And economically? Jobs?
Disruption is coming. Estimates vary a lot, but some sources predict maybe 40% of jobs globally could be affected somehow. Massive reskilling needed. New jobs will appear, sure, but certain groups are definitely more vulnerable.
And the bias issue keeps coming up. Algorithmic bias.
A persistent threat. If the data used to train AI has biases baked in from hiring, justice, whatever the AI learns them.
And replicates them.
Exactly. Perpetuates discrimination. We've seen it with things like facial recognition being less accurate for certain groups. And the black box problem makes it worse.
Meaning it's hard to see why the AI made a decision.
Precisely. Which makes auditing for bias really difficult.
So, bringing this all together, what's the path forward?
Well, the sources really push for what they call a human-AI complementarity imperative.
King.
Meaning, it's not about AI replacing humans. It's about designing systems, they call them centaurs, that combine AI's speed and data handling with human strengths.
Like intuition, empathy,
Yeah.
critical thinking.
Exactly those.
Yeah.
Which means ethical by design has to be central. Thinking about fairness, transparency, human oversight right from the start, not as an afterthought.
And the rules, regulations.
You're scrambling to keep up. It's this regulatory lag innovation race. But frameworks are emerging globally. It's happening.
But ultimately, it comes down to us, the users, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Engaging critically is key. Promoting AI literacy, your AI literacy, understanding the limits, seeing how it might influence your thinking, and consciously maintaining independent judgment.
So this deep dive really shows AI is incredibly powerful. It can augment our lives in amazing ways. But it also brings these profound risks, touching our minds, data, relationships, jobs, everything.
Yeah. Charting a future where AI actually serves human welfare, it's going to take conscious effort, ethical design, adaptive rules.
What does human civilization look like around 2125, especially with advanced AI in the picture?
Yeah, what I found interesting is how the analysis frames our task here, basically to pull out the key insights. It's arguing AI isn't just, another tool.
Not at all. It's positioned as this force that could fundamentally redefine, well, everything. Our economies, society, our psychology, ethics, even governments.
Exactly. And the thing that jumps out immediately, based on this source, is the sheer speed of it all.
Right. We've sort of gotten used to AI as ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, good at specific things like, say, chess or recommendations.
Sure.
But the analysis makes it really clear we're accelerating fast towards AGI, artificial general intelligence, human-level smarts across different areas.
And then potentially beyond that to ASI, artificial superintelligence, way beyond us.
Way beyond. And when we talk about speed, how fast are we talking? The source gives some pretty stark figures.
Yeah, the timelines have just collapsed, haven't they?
Uh-huh. Look at Metaculus. Their forecast for AGI went from, 50 years out down to just 5 years in only 4 years?
Wow.
And you've got pioneers like Geoffrey Hinton revising predictions down from decades to maybe 20 years or less. Demis Hassabis talking 5-10 years.
And the analysis mentions Musk's prediction too, right? AI is smarter than all humans by like 2029 or 2030.
Yeah, it cites that possibility.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fast.
So this speed, this acceleration, the analysis argues it's not just a tech detail. It changes the whole game.
Completely. It demands immediate, like right now, proactive thinking and adaptation. Globally, we don't really have the luxury of waiting this one out.
Right. And flowing from that speed and power, the source really sets up this core tension, doesn't it? This sort of fork in the road for 2125.
It does. On one side, the analysis digs into these immense opportunities that advanced AI could unlock.
Opportunities like, Well, potentially tackling huge global problems. The source mentions maybe ending diseases, ending poverty.
Yeah, it paints a picture of a possible post-scarcity world, this infinity economy concept driven by AI.
And it also talks about augmenting us, enhancing human creativity, our decision-making, what does it call it? Authentic intelligence.
Authentic intelligence, yeah. The source uses that term to describe human intelligence working with AI, complementing it, amplifying our unique strengths rather than just being replaced.
Okay, so that's the upside. But the analysis doesn't shy away from the risks either. It's pretty blunt about the severe downsides if we get this wrong.
Very blunt. Major concern number one, jobs. Widespread displacement. The source points to figures like the Goldman Sachs estimate 300 million jobs globally, potentially exposed just from generative AI.
300 million, that's huge. And related to that, the risk of deepening inequality.
Definitely. Wealth and power could get incredibly concentrated with those controlling the AI. The material even raises this specter of a kind of new global feudalism.
Oof. And then there's the psychological impacts the analysis gets into, which are, frankly, a bit scary.
Yeah. What stood out to you there?
Things like aspirational narrowing, our goals shrinking because AI feeds us such curated experiences, emotional engineering,
Yeah.
living in filter bubbles, echo chambers.
Right. And losing basic skills, too, if we just offload everything onto AI, sort of cognitive atrophy.
Yeah, exactly. And beyond the personal, the analysis also tackles the big one, existential risks.
It does. It references expert views, like Hinton's, 10-20% estimate for AI leading to potential human extinction, or similar figures from others.
That's a sobering. And it covers different scenarios, right?
Mhm.
Like misaligned ASI or AI enabling really extreme forms of control.
Precisely. From superintelligence with goals harmful to us to, tools for unprecedented totalitarianism.
So pulling all this together from the deep dive, the analysis seems crystal clear on one thing. The future, 21-25, it's not written yet.
Not at all. It really hammers home that it all comes down to the choices we're making now, collectively.
And it does lay out some potential strategies based on the research it surveyed.
It does. Key things include speeding up global governance for AI, maybe like a UN framework specifically for AGI. Prioritizing human-centric design is huge.
Making sure it actually helps people flourish.
Exactly. Massive investment needed in lifelong learning, reskilling because work will change. The source also talks about predistributive policies.
Predistribution.
Basically, strategies to get a fairer share of the wealth before it all gets concentrated at the top, not just trying to redistribute after the fact. And finally, building resilience psychologically and socially.
Right. So it's about actively steering this incredibly powerful technology. The analysis suggests the urgency comes from this gap, right, between how fast the tech is moving and how ready our societies are.
That's the critical vulnerability identified. We need proactive, ethical, global action starting yesterday, basically.
So maybe the final thought to leave you, the listener, with, and it's one that echoes through the source material itself. In this coming age, where AI could reshape literally everything, our jobs, economy, relationships, maybe even how we think, how do we together make sure this future genuinely serves the best interest of all of humanity?
A big question, and one we need to be asking constantly.
At the end of the day, the question isn't just how AI is going to evolve, it's how we, alongside it, choose to co-evolve.